Laptop computer spins onto the screen, opens, and displays ATP Education Program webinar series, closes, and then spins off the screen.
Hello and welcome to this video on assistive technology on the move. Today we're going to look at executive functioning supports that fit in your pocket. Throughout this series, we've been talking about a wide variety of assistive technology tools and supports that work with executive functioning in your classroom. But what about when students are moving from place to place, maybe going home, looking at post-secondary options? Sometimes it's important to have assistive technology that's more mobile and things that students can keep with them. Those are the types of tools we're going to discuss today. Hello, my name is Cassie Frost. I'm an assistive technology specialist, behavior specialist, problem solver, collector of things that may come in handy, and a believer that everyone can learn. My Twitter handle is here on this page, and I will share my email on the last slide as well. So before we go too much further, let's quick do a recap. If you haven't watched any of the previous videos, I want to make sure that you're ready and with me as we're talking about these tools. So I want to recap the areas of executive functioning. Specifically in this video, we are going to be discussing organization, time management, attention, memory, and processing. Each of these are incredibly important in a student's day, and oftentimes the tools that they need to have may need to be with them wherever they go. Think about a student maybe who is on a field trip or is moving into a classroom where they don't have some of their other resources with them. While most assistive technology is obviously moved with the student from place to place, it's also important to have some smaller things with them. Also, as we're talking about pocket-size assistive technology for executive functioning, oftentimes as students get older or they're moving out into the post-secondary environment, they're looking for assistive technology that isn't quite as obvious to everybody around them. We're going to look at some of those supports today. So the very first one that I want to talk about is the use of cellular phones. Obviously, this isn't as great of a resource, and we're talking about early elementary school, but definitely as students are getting older, moving into junior high, high school, and post-secondary, you're going to discover a lot of your students have their own cell phone. This means that it is something that students will have access to. Now, again, obviously, depending on your school policies, how much they can use them during the school day. So let's first address the elephant in the room per se, and talk about the usefulness versus the distraction. We all know that cell phones can be distractions for students. They have access to social media, games, and other things that they use their cell phones for when they're not in the school environment. However, cell phones also have a whole bunch of useful tools in them, especially for students who struggle with executive functioning. Cell phones are loaded with tools. We're going to talk about a few of them today. And so if we can find a way within our school policies to work with students on using their cell phones for executive functioning supports, in addition to those other things that they enjoy it for outside of school, they're going to be a lot further along when it comes to some of those post-secondary experiences where they will have access to their cell phone on a more regular basis. Sometimes when we're working with cell phones, it's important to be aware that there are different systems, because typically a school is not the person buying the cell phone for the student. This is something that is personally owned, family owned. We have no control over what type of phone the student may be working with. This means that they may have an Android device, a Google device, Amazon devices, or iOS Apple devices. So it's important, if we're going to be looking at executive functioning supports within a cell phone, that we have kind of a plethora of tools ready to go that we're aware of across those operating systems. We do need to be aware also of school policies. A lot of schools do not allow cell phone use, especially maybe in that junior high, elementary phase. Some are allowing it more and more in high school. But if we are going to be looking at those, we want to make sure we're working within school policies so students aren't getting in trouble with their cell phones when we're trying to teach them some of these tools. Anytime that we are looking at adding assistive technology to a student's day, we do want to make sure that we are providing direct instruction. This is no different with a cell phone. Perhaps it's even a little bit more. Because students are typically using cellular phones for things like social media, text messaging, connecting with their friends, playing games, it takes more instruction in teaching all of the features of the phone that can help provide executive functioning supports. In this way, it may not be as much of how to use them, how to click on the phone, where to find them, those types of things, but more of how to use them in regards to how can this tool benefit you and when is it appropriate to use it. One of the big benefits of cell phone support is that it is a lifelong tool. It's something that the student can take with them post-secondary if, again, most often it is a personal device, so it's something that they have with them outside of the school environment as well. So, while we're talking about cell phones, let's quickly look at a few of the tools that are available in most phones. So the first one is calendars. There are usually a built-in calendar in a phone, and there's tons of extra calendar apps that you can add. There's hundreds of them out there, both free and paid. The nice thing about using a cell phone calendar with a student who struggles with executive functioning is it will sync with other digital calendars, and oftentimes it will give reminders of events coming up. So it can sync maybe with their school calendars, their home calendars, their parents' calendars, all of those things, so they know what's coming and what's going on in their world. So it's really great for memory, for organization, and to kind of work on that time management piece. The camera that's built into a cell phone is one of the most powerful tools, often overlooked, but this means that students can take pictures of assignments. It means they can take pictures of tasks. They can take pictures of steps. They can take pictures of locations. So for example, as an adult, if I am traveling, I always take a picture of where I've parked my car so that I can find it in a parking garage again without wandering around looking for it. The one time I didn't, we actually spent quite a bit of time looking for our car. I learned my lesson. So taking pictures of things. I can think of another adult who does a lot of work on cars, and he will take pictures of the car as he's taking like the engine apart. So he remembers how to put it back together. So this is an incredibly powerful tool. If we can start thinking about how to use that in the school as well, things that students maybe need to take a picture of a list of materials they need to bring the next day, or of a finished project so they can remember at home what it looked like. There are in an iOS, it's called Remind. However, on Android, there's something also similar. There's the Remind app, List apps. These are often just places that you can write down notes to yourself. Things that, maybe your grocery list, things you need to remember to bring to school the next day, who's in your group with you for a certain project. This is just a really easy place to write down notes or things that you need to remember. And it's with you across all of your environments. It's stored in your phone. And again, often these will sync with other devices. And then the clock. So again, a lot of times here we're talking about students who struggle with memory and time management. The built-in clock feature of cell phones is super powerful because you can be setting timers, alerts, and alarms. This may be to set an alert 5 minutes before the class ends so they know it's time to clean up. This could be helping students learn how to set up an alarm for 8 o'clock at night to remind them that they need to pack their clarinet in their backpack for the next day. So this is a really powerful tool. And again, as we're teaching students to use it, these are things, as I'm talking about them, I'm guessing a lot of you have also done with your own cell phone, or family members or friends have done with theirs. So again, these are lifelong tools that we are teaching students. Outside of kind of more of the built-in things, there are some other tools that are kind of additional applications that you can add to cell phones. So one of the examples is a daily decision wheel. This is an app that allows you to enter in all of the things that you need to do and get done, and you can spin it. It's kind of just a fun wheel you spin, and whatever it lands on is what the student does next. Really easy way to kind of take some of that anxiety about figuring out what to do next. Also allows a student to kind of steer away from that time management. I don't know how much time I have. I don't know how long this is going to take me. You simply work on whatever comes next up on the app. Agenda and Notes. This is an iOS app in Agenda. I'm not sure if there's currently an Android version. I know there wasn't the last time I looked, but this allows you to keep track of notes and organize upcoming tasks. So in addition to the note apps I was talking about on the last screen, there are a wide variety of additional apps that you can add that are customized for exactly what a student may need. Some may focus more on writing, some allow you to enter pictures, some have dates, some will give you notifications. So there's just a plethora of these organizational apps out there. If you search like planners in the App Store or agendas in the App Store, you'll find just tons of these that you can try out. And then also working with students on using their cell phone to find the applications or the apps for things like the school, the bank, stores, sports. Almost every place that you go or activity that you're involved in has an iOS or Android app. In addition to just going to the website, there are all of these apps out there that allow students a quick and easy way to get to information. For a student who struggles with memory, how amazing is it for them to have an app that goes to the school where they can easily find what's for lunch that day, or where they can access their grades or their assignments. A real life application of this is your banking app, right? So as students are getting older, teaching them how to access things like that can be really important. And again, just being able to have that practice. Again, this is a really easy way for students to access information at a quick touch without having to spend time trying to figure out where things are at. And again, as we all get older, we all have our cell phones set up the way that work best for us with the apps and the things we use regularly. So especially as students get older, working with them on how to do that. And again, in our theme today, it fits in your pocket. Cell phones fit in our pockets, right? They may change in size over time. They've gotten bigger, they've gotten smaller, kind of back and forth. But one of the consistent thing is it does fit in your pocket and it can go with you wherever you go. This one may seem kind of funny, right? As things are going more digital, I always like looking back at some of the low-tech things. This is also really interesting because my daughter does this. Keeping paper and pencil in your pocket or in your bag. It may be better in your bag. Some people, have smaller pockets, but there is kind of been a resurgence lately of small notepads and little journals. So like little brown paper covered journals are starting to pop up everywhere. These are small enough that they can fit in a back pocket. They're easy to use. They're cost effective. If you have a student who's losing things regularly, having just that small notepad in their pocket is great because it's cost effective if it's lost, right? It's easy edited. You can erase it. And there's a variety of colors and designs out there. So in addition to having, large school planners and notebooks and all of those things, for some students, it's really beneficial to just find a really cute small notepad or journal. And again, they make them smaller than a cell phone or about the same size that they can just keep in their pocket with them and start working with students on, if they're always forgetting to bring stuff to class, or they're always forgetting their assignment, or they don't remember what they need to do. Providing just quick notes in that little journal can really help prompt them through their day and remember what it is they need to do. Then we need to talk about fidgets. Fidgets are amazing for students who struggle with attention. So there are commercial fidgets. Okay, again, fit in a pocket, fidget spinners, fidget cubes, tangles. I know some people really struggle with the idea of the fidget spinner and the fidget cubes because they can almost be a distraction. They're a little bit big. Kids really like them, so they're all kind of looking at each other, but they can also be a phenomenal tool. Tangles are kind of like that, they're plastic. They almost look like a snake and they kind of wiggle around. I couldn't find a handy picture of one, but I'm sure if you search it, if you're really interested, you can find one there. There are also handmade fidgets like putting cornstarch in a balloon. Some people use rice. I haven't had as much luck with rice because it seems to poke through the balloon over time. But definitely putting some cornstarch in a balloon, tying the balloon. It's a simple fidget, fits in your pocket. Students can kind of pull it out and fidget with it when they need it in class. You also can go ahead and put pony beads on a key ring. This is one of my favorite junior high into high school fidgets because it is super small. It is super cost effective and it doesn't really distract a student. They're also cost effective. If they're lost, it's okay. So you're just going to take a key ring, put some pony beads on it. This is something that a student can keep in their pocket and fidget with it there simply by rolling the pony beads around in their fingers, or they can take it out of their pocket, fidget with it under their desk. It's not something that's super distracting, but it does work as a fidget that's very easily handmade and something you can hand out to your students. Then we have some surprise tools. If we're talking about assistive technology for executive functioning that you can keep in your pocket, here are a couple of my favorites. Believe it or not, paper clips are one of my favorite executive functioning tools. This is because if you put 3 or 4 paper clips in your pocket, think about all the things they can do for you. You can have students organize their materials. So if they get a whole bunch of handouts in science class, they can pull out a paper clip and paper clip them together. They don't get lost as easily. So for organization, it is great. You can also use them to track events. So if a student needs to keep track of how many times they're going to be answering a question in class, maybe they have a goal that they're going to answer so many times, or they're only going to blurt out so many times. You can do this as a teacher as well. But simply put 4 or 5 paper clips in one pocket, and every time the event occurs, move the paper clip to the other side. So maybe you have them in your right pocket. Every time the event occurs, move one paper clip to the left side. It's a very easy way to keep track of things that's unobtrusive. Nobody else is going to notice around you. Your student is not going to be singled out or look different, anything like that. The other thing that paper clips for are great as fidgets. I didn't actually realize this until I was realizing I was using them myself as fidgets. When I would be standing in front of the classroom, I always had paper clips in my pocket because I was taking them off of assignments. And I discovered when I was talking to students, I would be linking and unlinking 2 paper clips in my hands while I would be talking. And I had students that picked up on this habit as well. So again, they're very cost effective. You can be used to organize your materials, link them together. You can keep track of events, kind of a data tracking thing. And also by linking and unlinking them and fidgeting back and forth, they're a very cost effective and, as you're going into high school, age appropriate fidget. My other favorite tool is a highlighter. And I know we work with students on highlighting in textbooks when they are in elementary school and junior high, but a student that has a highlighter in their pocket has some phenomenal resources right there. So this means when they get an assignment and there's a to-do date, they can quickly go ahead and highlight when the assignment is due or when they need to get something done. So they can add those highlights onto worksheets immediately. If they have a calendar, they can go ahead and highlight when there's days that need to get things done or when the test is going to be. Or they can highlight tomorrow's lunch menu if they need that. It's a really easy way for a student who may struggle with attention or with memory to cue themselves in on things that they need to look at. So in that way, these are my surprise tool. These are probably 2 of my most used assistive technologies for executive functioning. And I think that's really interesting with all of the tools that are out there. These are 2 that students kind of tend to gravitate to because they're always with them and they can do so many different things with one tool. So while we are talking about executive functioning and things that can fit in your pocket, visuals are always going to show up on every single time I talk about executive functioning. But this time, think about all of the little things that you could keep in your pocket. You could keep a schedule, a social story, a volume chart, a list of things that you need to do, a list of materials for each class. Basically, a small piece of paper. It's better if it's laminated because then it doesn't get crumpled in a pocket. But something that a student can pull out and check super easy. They don't need to open a folder. They don't need to open a binder. They don't need to look for it. It's just something that they can pull out. It is very cost effective. Do be aware though, oftentimes if you are using visuals, especially paper visuals in a pocket, a lot of times they're going to go home and they're going to go through a student's laundry. So do be aware, make multiple copies of these and just kind of be prepared for that. With the cost, it's usually pretty okay if it happens. But be aware you're going to lose them. You're going to need more of them. So whether you laminate them, sometimes laminate will make it through the washing machine a couple of times. But these are a great way for students to have visuals on them super easily and kind of at a glance. If you have any questions, definitely reach out to me. And I look forward to hearing about how you use visuals in your classroom.
Thank you for watching. For more information on the ATP Education Program, please visit our website at atp.nebraska.gov/education or email us at atp.education@nebraska.gov.